when we abide in Jesus, there's a relationship of dependence. Now you can just think about what Jesus says, I'm the vine, you're the branches. Here's the idea, a branch doesn't have inside of itself what it needs in order to thrive and produce fruit. What it does is it draws strength and nutrients and life out of the vine. A branch is connected to the trunk of the tree and draws its life and strength and nutrients from that trunk. And that's the idea with regard to Jesus. There is an outside help that we need. You know, it's striking as we think about these I am statements, how consistent the Bible is here. Jesus says, I'm the bread of life. The idea is that, of course, we're hungry, and there's nothing can satisfy that hunger except Jesus himself, and that's something external that comes up and fills up our soul. Jesus says, I'm the light of the world. Of course, if there were no sun, this world would just be hidden in darkness. But there is this external source, the sun, which shines its light on the world. And Jesus says, I am the light of the world. It's clear we need help that comes from outside. So when Jesus says, I'm the vine, you're the branches, the idea is this, as a branch, we depend upon the strength, the resources, the life that Jesus brings to us in order that we might change. Now listen, as we're talking about this, I want to help you think about what I'm saying. And I'd like to distinguish the kind of change I'm speaking about, the kind of change Jesus can bring, from what I'll call mechanical changes that we can bring about by our own resources. Of course, I'm a pastor and I meet with a lot of people. Often people come to me for counseling. You know, one type of counseling that I do is marriage counseling. Here's most often how it happens. All of a sudden, I'll get a phone call and there'll be someone on the other end of the line who says, help. Scott, you wouldn't know this, but my marriage is in a lot of trouble. I'm not getting along at all with my spouse, and my spouse just told me they're out of here, they're leaving, and I don't know what to do. I need your help. Before they left, they said that they were willing to talk with you, and so can we come over? And I say, okay, sure. And they come over and we sit down, and most often what happens is this. I say, okay, who'd like to start? And one of the spouses will actually pull out of their pocket or out of their bag what I call the list of grievances. And they'll often read and they'll say, you know, he's like this, or she's like that, or she's selfish like this, and she's inconsiderate, or he does this or does that. And there's this long list. And often, as that list is being read, I can just see the look in the other person's eye. It's like it's setting in for the first time, maybe because they're sitting with me. They're really, you know, they've heard it before, but now they're really hearing it. And so often, in the midst of a setting like that, I've heard the person, after hearing the list of grievances, say, wow, I never knew you felt like that. And, you know, baby, I'll change. I'm telling you. Please don't leave me. I'll do anything. You'll see. I'll prove it to you. And what happens is that immediately after they leave my office, they've said they're going to change, and they start trying to make those changes. And maybe it's fear that's motivating them. They don't want to lose the other person. Maybe it's pride that motivates them. They think, oh, I don't want to be, you know, like a bad husband or a bad wife, and I'm so much better than that. Maybe it's just selfishness. They don't want their life to change. They want everything to stay the same. And so for some period of time, they'll work at it as long as the thread is there. But inevitably, this is what happens. I've seen it so many times. As soon as the person has said, okay, I'll stay with you, and they've begun to settle in, slowly but surely, all the changes that got made revert back. Why? And here's the reason why. Because they weren't real changes. You know, it's fear and pride and selfishness that caused all the problems. Fear, pride, and selfishness, and our own internal dynamic can't produce real changes. And so inevitably, the person just goes back to the way they were, and pretty soon, before you know it, they're back in my office again. Here, I'm talking about a different kind of change. There's the kind of change that Jesus brings, where it's not our own resources, it's not our own internal strength. Instead, there's a dynamic that comes from outside, and it comes in, and it begins to change us from the inside out so that we truly are different. And when Jesus says, I'm the vine, you are the branches, that's the kind of power and dynamic that can come into your life, that can produce real, lasting change.